Monday, October 3rd, 2022 at 6 p.m. Elizabeth, can we do a roll call, please?
Sure. Tar and Kellogg are absent. Malzahn?
Here.
Brandt?
Here.
Rose?
Here.
Hayes?
Here.
Osnansky? Here. Parker?
Yeah.
And Stevens is absent.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, so if everybody could rise. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, we do have some visitors in the other room, so if there's any interruptions, I do apologize ahead of time.
All right, first up, we have public forum. Anybody like to speak? No, just here to watch? All right, great.
So Zach, I've never encountered this before, so I don't know what to do with this other than say something here, and
Okay.
I got a letter in my inbox from somebody that wanted this read tonight, but I don't know if I should do that or give it to you first, or...
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Do you have the person's information as far as name?
No, it was just
It's
in my box.
If they ask for
Read
public
it.
Yeah,
comment.
go
It's
ahead.
public forum.
Okay. So it's dated today, was this afternoon. Dear Romeo Downtown Development Authority, I would like to address some campaign literature that I am aware of. How can a Romeo DDA endorse a particular candidate in an upcoming election? A candidate for village president has a picture of her under the DDA sign. I thought government entities are run on taxpayer dollars are not allowed to do this. First the record, and now the DDA is showing favor. It's shameful. Signed, unhappy resident. I don't know what to do with
It's
this.
an anonymous letter?
That's how it's signed.
No, it's an anonymous letter?
Correct.
You trash those.
Do we have a policy on that?
You don't bring up anonymous as much as the village does not respond to anonymous complaints.
Well, I don't know that. We haven't really, we have a policy that says we are not supposed to address anonymous letters, but there's been anonymous communication that's provided by several trustees without providing a name. So, I don't know.
Okay, well, what's done is done.
So
Okay.
I did what.
Yeah, you read it,
What
so-
you told me to do, so.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay.
All
All right.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Sure.
All right, we need an approval of the agenda.
If I could change on that, I requested a closed session, and I'd like to remove that.
I have some additional information about what we shared at the last meeting, so if it's okay, I'd like to just continue to keep that, to convene the closed session for the consideration of...
It has to be posted 18 hours before the meeting. This
Well-
was not posted 18 hours before the meeting.
The agenda was posted. You can
The
add.
closed, the reasons for, I called a friend of mine, an attorney in Florida, is retired, and he called me back and he says, you have to do it in 18 hours, and can reconfirm to me that you have to tell them why. If you want to talk about what happened, that the person or the title holder to the property that we discussed last time did contact me. We had a long conversation. I don't know if you know that or not, but it doesn't.
Yep, I spoke with her today.
Okay. Then there may be you may have more information.
Exactly. So it was my understanding for Elizabeth, when she confirmed that this item 12A was for the consideration of property. So
And I'm saying that we weren't properly posted.
It wasn't posted originally with
The original agenda
purpose of
says
the
convened to closed session.
So that is.
So
the issue.
in other boards that I'm part of, we have added a closed session to the agenda, when something has come up. I've seen the school board do it, but it's up to you guys. It's your agenda, so whatever you'd like to do. But it's my understanding per open meetings that you have to have a meeting posted appropriately, and agenda items can be added, should the board so choose.
Well, I want to make sure there's clarification then. When it comes to posting about a closed session, is it required on the agenda when it's posted that the purpose be included on the agenda to go into closed session? And I'm asking because I don't know.
I did call an attorney who told me he was going to check with his office. He's retired. He called me back and said, yes, that's what you have to do. Now, he could be wrong. He's older and no longer practicing.
It is our best practice on the village level that we state a reason on our agendas for the closed session, the consideration of property purchase, union negotiations, et cetera, et cetera. There is an agenda item that was for a closed session that was properly posted within the 18 hours. So you can make adjustments to that if you want to state the purpose. We also need a motion to exit regular session and move into closed session, and that motion can state the reason.
Since the village president is assuring us that we are legal, and she certainly would know more about it than I would, I guess that it's in her ball.
Okay, so then we just need a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I have a motion by Brandt. Do we have a second?
I'll support.
Support by President Malzahn. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. One nay from Parker. Agenda has been approved. We need an approval of the minutes from the September 7th, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
I'll approve those.
I have a motion by Rose. Do we have a second?
I'll support.
Support by Malzahn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. So we have an approval of the minutes. Next up, financial report, presentation by the executive director.
So you see before you all the financials, the report that was written by Danielle Kelly. The financial statements are year-to-date from July 1 to September 28th. The month was closed prior to the end of the month due to the timing of the board meeting. All transactions are included with the exception of interest income for the month of September. Revenue collected was $47.48. From the following, there was a bank interest. The board needs to approve bills tonight totaling $20,321.22. Work completed in August. The bookkeeper, Rebecca, entered all invoices, issued checks, and processed payroll. Plant Moran closed the month end through September 28th and prepared schedules for the board packet. And you can see all the schedules are per usual. If you look on page, oh, we don't have page numbers, but you'll see the bill payments on the, just before the credit card statement. You'll see where the approval amount of $20,321.22 comes from. The largest amount, of course, is for the deposit on the winter decor and lights. You can see that the larger amounts there are for our downtown decor, et cetera. So if you have any questions on that.
If I may, just a couple,
Sure.
just real quick. Creative displays is what?
That's the lighting for downtown. So that was the additional lighting for the fall lights going up across 32 Mile, the purple and the orange lights, and an additional red and white lights for Christmas.
So Coldframe did not do that?
No, that's just for the material, that's just for the lights themselves, the purchase of additional
Creative
lighting.
displays is the lights itself.
Correct.
Landscape direct?
Landscape Direct, that was for the plantings in the planter box in front of the Masonic Lodge.
Northern Lights display.
That was, one of the colors was unavailable in the string that we needed them in, and so I had to go with a different vendor for a specific color, and they came through very quickly, which was quite helpful, as Carl and I know we, going through all that.
So, just so I'm clear, those are the vendors for the lights, and then Coldframe is the actual labor
The installer.
to install.
Correct. Coldframe is, yes, correct, installing those, yeah. And First National Bank of Omaha is our credit card.
Thank you. Yeah, and the credit card, it looks like the additional from a normal month, it was this Alma conference.
Right,
reason-
yep, which was, yep, and it's talked about in the director's report. Yep,
Yeah, so,
right.
but because it's double from last month, for example, and it looks like from the Alma conference expenses.
Nope, there's only 3 charges on there, 4 charges on there that were from Elma.
What I'm saying is, monthly, it's normally been about $300 this year. This month, it's $600, so.
Oh, I see what you're saying, right, because there was a one-night charge there. I mean, I didn't do the math, I can do it later, but I.
The increase in the credit card statement is due to what you used for the Alma conference. It looks as though.
One could say that, but I mean, we've purchased other things with the credit card before, and we've had an $1,800 credit card bill before. So it's not normal to have that, but like there'll be some other charges next month for various things, but.
So $300 is not, it's not an average.
No, I don't.
It can vary month to month.
Correct, it varies from month to month, because some things, a lot of the charges that are on there are specific to the office, like, Intuit, the MSFT, that's Microsoft. We now pay for Google, as you're aware, that I put that in my director's report last month. There's a credit from Oriental Trading Company. If you guys were around during Vintage Fest, they had those yo-yos. They were so bad that I called them, and they said, you can send them back, we'll refund you all your money. So that's what part of that was for. So we got a refund
Thank you.
from that.
Thank you.
What was the $895 to the village? Was that? Maybe banners?
No, that was some accounting fees in conjunction with the audit, I believe. I'd have to look on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the village. That was for accounting.
Something, looking at the credit card statement, something I'd like us to look at, obviously not tonight, but in the future, we have 3 different coffee charges here. And I'm assuming those are for the volunteer committee?
They're for the event planning committee, yes.
Okay. So if we take this as an average, we're spending over $1,000 a year on coffee. I just wonder if we should be putting a cap on this, $500, do some sort of something, because this could really just go as high as it wants. This volunteer committee doesn't get anything, we don't want anything, we're good. And I just think we should spend our tax dollars a little bit better. Maybe not better, that's not a choice, but in a different manner, especially because if we look towards the end of the packet, we need to come up with some money. So it's just a thought that in the future, maybe we put that on for next month to make some sort of a cap on
Establish
it.
a budget for,
Yeah.
coffee and snacks.
It's amazing, though, people show up when they know there's coffee and a few bagels. I mean, the amount of volunteer hours that this board is getting is unbelievable, what this village is getting at no cost. And so if there's a little bit of, if you throw people, a bagel and some coffee, it's a pretty good exchange. But it's ultimately your budget, and you guys get to choose what to do with that. But you said you didn't want to make that decision tonight. It was just a suggestion for next month.
No, it's not on the agenda. It's just something I'm running across that we can add down the road.
All right, so we need a motion to approve the payment of bills through September 28th, 2022 in the amount of $20,321.22. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Motion by Malzahn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rose. Elizabeth, will you do a roll, please?
Sure, Poznanski,
Yeah.
Rose,
Yes?
Brandt,
Yes.
Parker,
Yeah.
Hayes,
Yes.
Malzahn.
Yes.
All right, moving on in the agenda, we have the Executive Director's Report from Elizabeth Miller.
All right. I try to make it not 2 pages, but it just doesn't work. The Downtown Romeo in the news. The Michigan Downtown Association Takeover Day was a fun project. Madison did a fantastic job with her first live interview at the Chamber of Commerce with Kelly Stevens. Several businesses were also featured throughout that day. We're pleased, and secondly, we are pleased to announce that the Romeo DDA has been featured in an online article by the Our Detroit magazine. Their editor-in-chief reached out to us, and we have a video interview set up for October 6th, so I think that's this Thursday. She's very intrigued by all the excitement in Romeo, and the interview will showcase all things Romeo Screech Fest, Tilson Street, and also Miracle on Tilson Street. So that's exciting how that all came through. There's also a local resident who happens to work at our magazine, and he has been invited along since he lives here, so he's pretty excited about that opportunity. Community collaboration, Village of Romeo, the pedestrian crosswalk project. I decided to put a section in here regarding the collaboration of what we do with different entities and how that might help this read a little bit better. The project has been completed beautifully by our contractor. While the step down in front of the Masonic Lodge was not ideal, it has created a unique opportunity for collaboration and also researching ideas and fulfilling some key points of the DDA's 2037 master plan. An on-site meeting was held on September 23rd at 9 a.m. In attendance were 5 members of the Romeo Masons, an MDOT representative, Paulo Mura with Rowe, and Nick Sorello from Warren Contractors. As a result of our collaborative conversations, a Mason member suggested a horizontal bar be placed across the bike rack so bikes cannot be parked and block the sidewalk. Nick was on site the next day and made said changes in addition to making this temporary railing secure and solid. The bike rack has now been converted to just a railing. I made it known that one of the DDA's goals from previous year's planning and also from our current master plan is to include wayfinding signage and bike racks throughout the downtown. This will take some time to get direction from the DDA board, village council, businesses downtown, community members, and visitors alike. As such, the Masons understand that this railing will be in place as is until at least mid-2023 when a comprehensive solution has been agreed upon. In addition to a few other concerns raised, a non-skid product will be added to the sidewalk just north of the Masonic Lodge steps, and the curb below will be painted yellow. So if you all know, like how it goes down and then there's actually a curb, it's not a graduated, with the ADA part. So that part's going to be painted yellow. I didn't know how to phrase that in there. So, and then that sidewalk space that grades down right there, there's an application they can put on there. And so that might be news to you because you just got back, I know. But it's a material that the contractors are familiar with and Rowe is familiar with as well.
Are we ADA compliant?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Macomb County, Macomb Orchard Trail. We are working with Macomb County to use a wayfinding signage on the Macomb Orchard Trail at 32 Mile Road to promote downtown Romeo. The signage behind the plexiglass has not been updated since 2017. That is over 5 years ago. Needless to say, an update is desperately needed. This is a wonderful opportunity to raise awareness to trail users of all of the downtown Romeo has to offer and bring them downtown. This has also provided an opportunity to start the discussion around a trail connection to downtown, which is one of the things that I know Greg Tarr mentioned at last month's meeting. How could we getting some conversations with that? So JP from the county reached out to me actually yesterday and today, just this morning, sorry, and they are going to be bringing me the keys to those boards out there. I did make it clear the DDA was not interested in taking over the responsibility of the maintenance of those boards, just getting things updated so when people are enjoying the trail still in October and November, they see the events that are happening downtown. They see the map of what's available downtown. So, and they're pleased that we're willing to take that over until they put their new signage there. Anybody have questions about that?
You said maps and ways to get downtown?
No, we don't have that yet, but they have some other materials that they'd like put in there as well from the county. So they're bringing me whatever to put that in, and then we'll put our events in there, and we'll, our different promotional materials go down there. Yeah.
We talked at we talked at the last meeting about finding out whether or not there's a state law that asks that you to stop for pedestrians in crosswalks. I was in Detroit over the weekend on Cass Avenue. They have it's like one of your MOP signs right in the middle of the bloody street, and it says, state law requires you to stop, state law stop for pedestrian and crosswalk. So that's only in the city of Detroit that they bother to reference the state law, and they have these folding yellow thingies.
Yeah, they're all over. The only thing I wonder is, because there's turn lanes, where would you put this?
Have we had any legal counsel check to see if there is such a state law, or are these people just putting these things out because they're fun to put out?
I have been in touch with Sergeant McCoskey, I think is his name, from the MSP, and he would be our liaison. And he is going to, once the pedestrian crosswalk project is completed and all the materials are removed, they're coming out to do a traffic study to see if our patterns warrant additional signages, and I can certainly pose that question to him at the time when he is actually on site. We're doing a walkthrough. Does this need posted signage? That's what you're asking me, correct?
No, I said, can we do it? Can we put
We
movable?
cannot without the Michigan State Police and the Road Commission's approval
Okay, that's,
to do it, but
can we put up signs of our own that tell people you should stop for, because the state law requires it?
the only signage that we're allowed to do for the project is what's already installed per the Road Commission, per MDOT, until a traffic study is conducted. That's what we were told.
We can't put up on our own property signs that say, this is what the state law is? We can't
Not that
hang
I'm aware
banners?
of. I didn't pose that specific question to them about that. We asked about additional signage, and we were told, no, we can't put anything other than what's already in the plan there until a traffic study was done.
You know, Bill, I noticed, I was up in Port Huron this weekend, and they have the same sign. They're all over the state. They're in Alma, they're all over the place. What I noticed, though, the places that have those signs, they don't have a center turn lane. But where they're at is right where the center lines are. So, you know, I don't know where you would put them, but because they're county roads, we have to get everything approved that goes in the road through the county.
I wonder if we could hang a sign over the road. I'm serious.
It's a great question. Well, I'll be
As long as
talking,
we're high enough that we're not interfering with traffic, why in the world can't we consider doing that?
Are those poles?
People
count?
make the assumption that they can just walk out on those crosswalks.
Yeah, there's a bit of a false sense of
Yeah.
safety.
Right.
From what I hear, the answer is working on it.
Yeah, we were
Gotta get a
told
traffic-
when we
traffic
asked
study.
about additional signage, that the next step is to have this traffic study done through the MSP.
Yep.
And they, right, whatever, they'll know the traffic rules of what needs to be done based on the speeds that's posted there, the infrastructure that's built there, and traffic patterns that they're going to study. So we're going to follow through and do
Why
that
don't we
work.
see if we can hang a sign across the road? We hang other banners across the road, and they don't have anything to say about it.
Well,
I'm serious about
technically, they have to approve those. The over-the-road banners are submitted for approval. So they do approve those.
Each one of them?
Well, there's been some miscommunication in the past, and they were hung without approval, but we are supposed to submit them for approval to the Road Commission every time an over-the-road banner gets hung up. Anything that has to do with that road, because it's state,
Okay.
we need approval. Even when we close it for a parade, we have to submit it
Never
to get
questioned
an
that.
approval, right?
It's just when you're driving and you see these yellow, pick them up and get them the hell out of here in the winter signs.
I completely agree that the signs are needed, and I'm advocating for them as strongly as I can.
am I good to continue with
Yeah,
that?
go
Okay.
for it.
All right, thank you, Bill. Okay, so Starkweather Arts Center, their Friendship Pole project has won the grant from the Michigan Municipal League. They are requesting our assistance in placing them throughout the downtown. It could also be a collaboration with the Romeo Tree Board for the Arbor Day celebration in 2023. From Grace Vinay at Starkweather, Starkweather has won a $500 grant for the Friendship Pole project. This will be a project with the Romeo Art Guild of Art, Lisa Joseph, art teacher from Romeo High School. So far, 6 to 10 decorated poles, roughly 8 feet, that are painted mosaic tiled clay finials representing friendship and peace. These will be installed around town with permission on public space using Boy Scout labor. I'm hoping you will help us with installation permitting with the village. This project would not be ready for installation until spring, and at that time, we would request a reveal to include Michigan Municipal League grant source. I have a meeting with Grace on Wednesday. We're going to be looking at some of the alley spaces, because I know one of the things, it's actually I'll talk about downtown under my beautification part. In addition, we have, what I didn't put under community collaboration is Amanda Moore is working with their 111 little artists, and they've been busy painting the pickets in our temporary alleyway, and it just looks beautiful, and we have some people here from there, so thank you. And it's been really fun to watch the kids. I've caught them a couple times out there painting, and they're thrilled to be doing that.
When does that temporary status expire?
It's approved through November 1st. I mentioned it last month, and you all kind of nodded your head, so I'd like to go to Village Council and ask for an extension on that. I'd like to see the fencing stay up through the end of November, because it's all fall themed, and those panels could then be actually taken out and be painted a winter theme And so could be similar to like the Romeo Rock temporarily. There's some of our decor could go up in that space. Obviously, we would probably put those tables away. But yeah, I'd like to see it continue. We have the lights up, and possibly look at, it's in your guys' master plan for more placemaking, and it's also in, it's one of the things, the county wants to see it stay closed.
But before we do that, can we maybe just reach out to those businesses that we originally got the sign off from and just make sure that they are okay with that?
Absolutely. I've been working on that already, and,
All right,
and
great.
all of them so far. I haven't talked to every one of them just yet, but yeah, they're all just, no, we haven't seen a change in our business. But I know that was a concern initially, so yeah, thank you for that. Continued education, September 14 through 15. Madison and I attended the Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities Conference, sponsored by the MSU Extension. We are well under our budget of spending only $253.59 of our board-approved $500. This was possible by a generous sponsorship by the MEDC that covered both our registration fees. Being fiscally responsible in this area will allow us to hopefully attend additional conferences in the upcoming months. We learned so many valuable lessons from this conference. Our host city of Alma is an incredible community that has many of the collaborative efforts that the Romeo DDA has been working on this past 12 months. In addition, we learned about grant opportunities that could help with several areas for funding sources that could benefit the DDA. Our biggest takeaway, we are right on track in every aspect of our work. We are grateful for the opportunity to attend and put into practice what we have learned. Downtown beautification, alley ornamental trees. This month I'll be selecting a replacement for the memorial dogwood tree that perished in the pot located in Parker Alley. The plaque will be moved and adorn that tree. I've been talking with Mary Raymond about that. In addition, we'll be using some of the alley beautification funds to select some additional ornamental trees for Starkweather Alley and Parker Alley. These would be planted in the current beds. If anyone would like to participate in the selection process, we will be walking those alleys with Landscape Direct and Starkweather, and I believe I have that set up for Wednesday morning. Your input is welcome and encouraged, and what's fascinating about that is Grace was worried about those friendship poles kind of getting lost, but if there's a backdrop of like a tree or something, you have that depth of space with the building behind it. So we're talking small, ornamental. For any of you who know, I'm a gardener, so kind of know, this is sort of in my wheelhouse, and so it would not be anything to fill, it would just be to add some additional depth and height in those spaces. And we've already done all the mist digs from when we did all the lighting. Fall lighting and decor, everything has been installed and looks great. We're ready for the fall season. There are 4 poles with outlets that are not working, and DP, since then, I've been notified that Rahorn's supposed to be about in the next 2 weeks to take care of that for the appropriate repairs. All of our Christmas lights and decor have been picked up by Coldframe. They are working on them now. So far, there are an additional 5 businesses, actually now I changed that to 6, that would like to participate in the tree lighting displays, and those lights will be ordered soon. The fall RFP, we're going to talk about that. Event updates, as seen in the last month's board packet, our events section has been moved to a separate document and will be completed by our events coordinator on a monthly basis. So that, I will leave you to read that on your, I'm sure you've already read that. So that is my report.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. All right, moving on, we don't have any funding requests, committee reports, any updates from the policy committee or the parking study committee? Is that?
Other than just, I would say from the parking study aspect, no, on A, no, I don't have anything updated on that. On B, the parking study committee, there was just a conversation at the last village council meeting just regarding is it an ordinance that they changed? Is that what you guys approved?
We just updated our ordinance
Updated the
to
ordinance.
reflect the changes that were recommended by this board for the new time limits on several of those parking spaces, as well as the one-way directional. So we just had to put those specifics in our ordinance, and we finally completed that task.
So they did not, they didn't put the specific time on that, so the ordinance wouldn't have to be redone if it
Sure,
got changed again.
Subject to change.
I got a phone call today from Mike Romano from Tech City Electronics. This could be talked about under 11B, or I could talk about it under the parking study, because this was part of it before. He would strongly, he was going to send me an email, but I did not get it prior to coming here. He would really like to see additional signage. This might be the right place, because you and I talked about this afternoon. I did hand this to you. You guys all have a copy of this?
We've had
You've had this before,
yeah.
Yep. It was also included in the master planning session for the Village of Romeo. We already have the one-way by Stone's Ace Hardware, but there's no signage at the end of that alley saying that it's a one-way.
Right.
And then the one-way to the right, in that parking lot right there, there's no signage there saying that it's a one-way on either end of that. And then, in talking with Christine about that day, she said, I think they thought she could just take care of that administratively, that it doesn't need to be an action on the board.
If the direction is already defined
Right.
in our plan, which I would just have to verify, I don't see any reason why we can't just install signage. Maybe it got taken down, maybe it was faded like the other ones, but I think just administratively, I don't think this board needs to take any action, but certainly appreciate the work that we all are doing here to make sure that these areas are safe for everybody to, come in and out of and get crossed. So, yeah, if
He
you
told me
guys
of a
want us to
horrendous
look at
story
it,
that
yeah.
happened, and he just said it's another bicycle, or a motorcycle accident waiting. There was an older man getting into his car from the cleaners, and somebody was just, they followed aggressively and was saying not so nice things to the person in
Yeah.
the car. So, but signage, he said, we just need new signage.
Yeah, so we have it defined, but we now have to clarify it for everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if they can handle it
that's-
administratively,
Perfect.
great. There's nothing we have to do on that.
Okay,
I'll
great.
just make sure that the alley is designated on our master plan as such.
Okay. One last point under that, in looking over all the plat maps, I don't know of a better time to tell you guys this than now. Looking at that whole alley space, that parking lot under the county is listed as Romeo Downtown Development Authority property. Don't know how that is.
Surprise! Merry Christmas.
Wasn't it at one point though, and then it was my understanding that at some point it transferred to the village?
DDA bought it or signed the contracts to buy it.
Right.
After I left the board,
Yes. Right, there was some contention that was part of the consent judgment agreement that we went to court with because they were looking for a repayment plan of that. I don't remember the specifics, the years, it was before my time of service, but I know that we addressed that and as conclusion to the lawsuit.
So I don't think there's anything to do with that. I just wanted to,
Sure.
because I was aware of this, I wanted the board to be aware
it's
of that
because
as
the
well.
original contract was between the DDA and the owner.
So if anybody has any dates on that, they could get to me later. It'd be nice just to find that, to understand it.
What area are we
So,
talking about? I'm sorry.
This back row?
The parking, yeah, the
Yes.
back
Back
two
row
rows,
here.
that section. Right there.
Adjacent to the abandoned car
Right.
dealership.
That's because that's all technically public parking.
It really
And I can
just
show you
means-
the mapping from the county afterwards if you'd like.
There's,
And I-
there's lots of those maps don't really mean anything. They just don't ever get updated.
And I don't think anybody on this board currently was serving at the time when
No.
any of this took place. I
No.
don't think we
Okay.
have any documentation on our end,
Okay.
at least.
There was ample documentation on the purchase.
There is some
I mean,
documentation.
that was all run through.
Yes, the legal system.
With the municipal attorney, and everything was properly witnessed, notarized, you name it. And it was because the council agreed to help fund the purchase, I believe. And what happened after I left, I can't tell you that.
So I think we're all in agreement that it's the village, it's the village's property, and if something needs to be updated at wherever you're pulling those records from, then maybe we should just bring it to their attention that it needs to be updated so that it's.
I don't think it needs to be updated if the records say that it's yours and the documentation says that you purchased it. What it means is that the care, maintenance, and upkeep of it would be this board's responsibility, not necessarily the village. So for striping, if it needs to be repaved,
It's just something that we
It's just
have to
something
look
that-
at when we're looking at that quadrant.
Okay.
So anyways, just informational purposes on that.
All right. Moving on to unfinished business, we have none, so that'll bring us to new business. Item A, the 2023 Streetscape Floral RFP.
Do you want me to, well, I'll read my section there. We've received 3 bids from our 4-part bid on the 2023 Floral Landscape RFP, request for proposal. If we combine 2 of the bids to complete all 4 sections needed, the total cost would be $56,735. This amount is $21,218 over the budgeted amount of $35,517. The previous 3-year contract was a combined amount of $37,253 per year. I've spoken with all 3 bidders, and all are willing to make some adjustments and changes to possibly bring the cost down. I would recommend that we review the attached downtown map and the previous 7-year contract cost and scope of work changes. We could then consider putting it back out for bid, accept modifications with the current bids received. Attached, you'll see all 3 bids, the comparison chart, and then also the floral map that we've created as such. One of the bidders, Greystone, his wife went into surgery on Thursday. He was not able to look at the adjustment. He was made aware of the bid by Vans Valley, and I don't understand why it says Vans Valley bid if Sean's the one doing it, so he has not returned my phone call, so I'm not.
There's a different a subsidiary, Vans Valley Watering.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure how they're working that, because again, I haven't gotten, I know, Megan, I left you a couple messages and sent you some emails. I never got a response from you to try to get some of the historical information on this, because you've been on the board for quite some time with approving these bids. So,
Yeah, what do you want to know?
well, down in 2017, so if you look at the bids and the notes, the cost for 2017, do you know how many of those new planters and baskets were purchased in 2016? And then also in 2016, that would have been for the 2017 season. And then there was I'm assuming a 1-year contract for 2016. And so those are estimates because I couldn't find the actual contracts from 2016. So you can see the scope of work went up. If the previous cost from 16 was $26,600 per year, and then it went up to an average of $35 to $37 every year, you guys increased quite a bit of how many baskets were down there. So I don't have that information. So the questions, I'd be happy to.
You mentioned that you spoke with these bidders, and they are all...
I'm sorry, without Sean, he did not return my phone call, so I
Okay.
have not heard back from him yet.
Okay. The question being, they are willing to make some adjustments to possibly bring costs down. What does that mean?
Sure, that's a good question.
What do they offer to bring it down?
Sure, so the Geyer Farms, she suggested the amount of plants that were in the previous contract that we brought back over to this one, carried over to this one. She suggested that
That's okay, Elizabeth.
well,
To reduce the amount?
reduce material
That's fine.
in the plants,
Got
not
it.
needed as much. But in viewing, I've been in several downtowns in the last few weeks, and we have a lot of baskets, and they look beautiful, but $56,000
Right.
is a lot of money.
Yeah, I just wanted to know.
That's a
real quick,
quarter of our budget.
So possible reducing the amount is one.
Yes.
I mean, I know with specifics, of course, we can.
Well, some of the
talk
other
about
things are
where,
fuel costs, if they, that could come down, so that was one of the things that Greystone said. And he said, I'd like to look at it again and maybe give you some options. Per the bid, we have the right, if you look, and I know you all got a copy of this, but just so that you could possibly feel comfortable with going with my recommendation of delaying it. Let me just find this real quick. On page 6 of the RFP, the DDA will make a selection based on best value to the DDA. Any proposal that is unacceptable in one of the above categories will not be considered, reserves the right to rebid. the project, enter in discussion with bidders where proposals are considered best value in order to make a final determination. They reserve the right to interview any number of qualified bidders, and so no contract may be assigned, yada, yada, yada. Reserves the right to reject any and all proposals, waive formalities, to award the contract in any manner deemed in the best interest of the DDA. So you have a lot of flexibility based on how I wrote the RFP.
I did notice that actually the figure for watering was reduced.
Yes, that portion.
So he's actually already come down based on the raw numbers that I'm looking at.
Correct, on that portion, yeah. No,
Water.
but there was one, so they only bid on part 1. So who would do the other parts 2 and 3? Or parts 2 and 4?
They're just literally delivering.
No, I'm just
Yeah,
making,
material.
I'm just talking about the watering. I'm just
Yes.
making sure that they realize they're actually put in a bid smaller than this year.
Yeah, well, I would imagine he does, but again, I have not
Okay.
spoken with him.
So that would be one, I doubt he's going to want to come down even more. He's already come down. So the other areas to come down would be to minimize the amount of baskets or flowers or however, which was what you just said one of them offered, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other is, I wanted to ask about actually parts 2 and 4. Does all this hardware have to, and it might be more of a village question, I don't know, have to be coming up and down all the time? I mean, we're talking over $12,000 to take hardware down and put hardware up every year, over and over, and also the wear and tear and all that?
Exactly, so we talked to them and said, look, that's why we decided to plant or put the harvest date materials in there, to keep them full of something, because the up and down is damaging the poles. They need to be repainted. So when Elizabeth first came on board, we talked about repainting those lamp posts, taking them all down while the new materials were being grown for this summer's installation, which didn't happen. Repaint the poles, reinstall them in the areas that we know we want to have flowers. Historically, we used to have the hanging baskets, not the ones that clamped around the pole. There used to be 2 per pole, and then we talked to, as a cost-saving measure, to go to 1 per pole, and then add a banner to the other side. There was a couple of different variations historically, which could account for the different pricing, as well as we had the big round terracotta pots, so we didn't have quite as many annuals. So I think over time, it's sort of grown. Bigger pot, I don't know if there's more in volume, I guess they would have to go back and count. But to your point, no, the pots should stay clamped once we fixed the lighting infrastructure, and I don't know that we need as many as we have there now. They are beautiful, and it's amazing to look down the street, but our sidewalks are really, really crowded with all the lamps, with all the banners, with all the flowers. We have the businesses now that have the beautiful, service areas. We still need to have some open space for people to actually walk and push a stroller and carry their shopping bags. And I don't necessarily think it would be a bad thing to just scale it back. I'm certainly not suggesting that we eliminate that part of the decor, but I think we can take a better inventory of what do we need and what can we install, especially if we need to look at adding bike racks and kiosks and wayfinding signages, which people are asking to have put in town as an asset that they can use.
I would like to propose along the lines of what Elizabeth, I think, is inferring, which would be to delay this. Whether it's scaled back, as you're talking about, Christine, it would be one thing to look at. Although there's a couple areas which I'm thinking may scale up. I don't know. There's no talk about the new parking lot. Are we doing anything there? There's no park as to the Romeo Village Park. Are we going to do anything in there? I have no idea.
That's included in the RFP.
Are we doing anything in our new gifted parking lot in the southeast quadrant that we were just given 5 minutes ago? I mean, we may be adding actually before we reduce, but then
I'm like, what are you
one.
talking about? What just happened?
Well, you know what I'm
No.
saying, there may be more, but simple thing like hardware, just leave them up. There's $12,000.
Well, and that
But
has
not-
been talked about, and you can't, but if you just leave hardware, it's actually a risk because you have just metal that hangs out, and people hang
Not if-
from them, and,
Not if you're putting lights on them, or you're putting corn stalks
Yeah, we
in the
talked about
baskets, or you're putting
having fall decor in
Christmas-
them and then putting Christmas decor in
Snow,
them.
snowman, I mean, I don't know, decorate, we want to decorate anyway, so there's a basket and we can put
But that also,
snowballs.
but that
I don't
also
know.
then
The
costs
question
money,
is,
and are we really?
Do we really need as many baskets?
But
And
that's-
you're looking at
that
the
was
map,
addressed,
and
right.
you don't need that many baskets.
really quick, though, that's just not removing the hardware and baskets, it's also removing the plant material and putting in the plant material, so we don't know what that portion of the cost would be. Is that
That's
gonna
right.
lessen it
We-
by?
We have to make a decision next month at the last, and you run out of time.
And I do want to point out on here, did anybody bid for the disease treatment for this? Because
there was some conversation back and forth with a couple of the bidders, and one that wasn't able to make it in time because they're out busy harvesting, they just could not get into the office to get a bid in. But they said, they have their own treatments, and so they wouldn't use that. In fact, they haven't had to use the fungicide in several years. Vans Valley has not had to use it, there hasn't
They
been
didn't
issues.
use it?
No. So.
Because it's in there that we paid for it.
Yeah, and I talked to Sean, and Sean actually told me just the
Yeah,
other day
I
that
was
he
gonna
sprayed the
say,
stuff.
yeah, we do.
He did, okay, so then I could be
See,
in here.
that's what worries me, is that
Okay.
maybe that's the reason why they did as well as they did and lasted as long as they did. I don't know if Sean, when he was doing the watering, was also applying those treatments, but now he's just bidding for the watering, which we don't know if that includes any of the treatment to keep these flowers alive for as long as we do. So it looks like this is it's a lot of à la carte. And I think that's where we had issues in the past, where it's easy to point fingers when this person's doing the watering, and then they're saying, well, they didn't put any treatment in there. So we've been now.
And in talking to 15 to 20 different growers from July until now, no one wants to do all 4 parts. Nobody.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, I know, but we're also not, we've got nobody even bidding on that part. So that's getting removed from the RFP, basically, right? But the way it stands now, nobody bid on that portion of the bid.
Correct.
Don't quote me on it, but I believe Sean does what he needs to when he sees that there's needed, whether it's extra fertilizer or killer or what have you.
Yeah, correct.
He does.
He puts chemicals in there, which I think covers that. He probably just didn't separate it because to him it's all the same.
It'd be nice to get confirmation on
Yeah.
it, just so we know.
Sure.
He told me that he does that, and he also replants where material either gets removed. I don't know if people are stealing plants.
Yeah, and that's part of the
once they're
contract.
planted, or if squirrels are digging them out like they do in my pots, and, then my marigolds die and they're laying on the sidewalk. But I know Sean said that as part of his maintenance and watering, monitoring all of that, he is constantly replenishing where, it's needed so that they look spectacular, and they do.
So how do we, because I agree, though, that we do need to scale this back. There's no way we're not going to be able to afford what we've done in the past. It's just
At
it's too expensive.
$56,000, right?
How do we decide, do we need to get a subcommittee together and convene for this before we can bid it out again? Because it's going to have to go out again.
Well, we
Can't
could,
approve anything.
We need to find out how many $35,000 is going to buy total. And then-
So how about-
then make a decision to which ones to take out.
I'm sorry, Bill. We can see what the current bidders come back with and adjusting that and see, and then we could convene if there's a few people that want to meet on that. We could certainly do that. I mean, there are 138 planters. There's 98 of the 23-inch hanging baskets, 40 of the 28. I mean, you all just approved, the material for all those new baskets alone, just for the hardware and everything was almost $18,000 in 2016. So I'm not sure where that would be stored if you don't use that. Where is it going to be stored? So those are things that have to be worked out
If we don't
too.
have
Leave
the
it
money
up.
to do it, we can worry about letting them sit out in the DPW yard, I guess. But we need to find out what $35,000 is going to buy us,
Okay.
period, total.
I would also be curious what our options were as annuals versus perennials, right? I know a lot of municipalities have more built-in planters like our new planter down by Masonic Temple. If some of our other areas were planted with more perennials, and we supplemented with just the annuals, how much would that reduce our cost?
The only one that would be the bed that's behind the police station.
The perennials tend to die because they just
You
get
still have to
frozen
maintain
out.
them
That's
over winter
the pots
somehow.
we have, we've put perennials in there before, and they
I'm
just-
not a gardener, so
No,
I don't
they-
know, right?
you
I'm just
can't
asking the question.
freeze these. The whole concept of freezing these things utterly solid kills, I mean, that's.
But John's boxwoods have survived for years in his planters. They look spectacular, right? And you don't have to,
Is it adjacent to
I
your
mean,
building?
a couple years you've gotten out of them, right?
John, is it adjacent to your building?
It's right in front.
What do you do
Let
with
me-
them over
Does it
winter?
touch the building?
No,
How far from the building are they?
they're at the edge of the sidewalk, so what's that, 8
That's,
feet?
yeah, beyond remarkable.
So, I mean,
I'm saying-
maybe him and Julie have green thumbs. So kudos to you for keeping them alive. They add a very nice homey feel to your outside patio. And if we supplemented some of those with something similar, is that a cost-saving option versus buying new materials every year? I don't know, but I'm just throwing that
Well,
out.
how about we-
Basically, how do we get it to last as long as possible when we're
And
spending this
if it
kind of money
doesn't,
on an annual
then
basis?
Bill may be right, may not be viable.
And then I know I'm repeating myself.
Find out the individual pricing on the plants. If we've got 98 of them and they're saying this is going to cost X number of thousands of dollars, okay, if we eliminate 30 of them, is it per item? Am I making any sense to you at all? Then, okay, if we have to eliminate 30 of them in order, or 40 of them to bring it down, we can then look at the map and make a decision about whether or not that's our most viable
40 would
option.
work.
And to me, that
Back in the day, we talked about, this is a while ago, getting businesses to sponsor them, and we would stick things in them. We could, if we had to, go back to that idea, getting prices per pot, and then you stick some sort of acknowledgement in it to help us cover them. It's just an idea.
I know I've also asked the tenants to take care of them, and they don't, period, end of statement. Something always happens that they can't.
Well, the care would be,
Yes.
Taken care of. It's
We're
the-
saying, yeah, I understand the
Maintenance.
sponsorship, that's just writing a check and doing it, which is the reason I wrote a check last year, because I just couldn't get them in there in time.
Do we have 30 days? Can we postpone? Can we work
Oh,
on
yeah,
this?
you guys can, based on the RFP language, yeah, you can, what you're suggesting we do, we can totally
I
do.
have no idea. Are we realistically going to be able to get somebody to actually grow these and get it going if we wait another 30 days? And
Yes.
in that 30
Yeah.
days,
We might be
however,
saving a lot of money
to
pretty
Zach's
soon.
point,
Not doing it at all.
we discuss more specifics, which we're not going to be able to tonight. Are we adding anywhere? Are we subtracting anywhere? What are our different options? I mean, maybe a 2-week time frame to discuss it, and then in 2 weeks, we put this out again, so that in 30 days, the next meeting, we've got any more bids that might come in.
That would,
that
you have 4
realistic?
weeks, you have 4 weeks to the next board meeting.
I understand that.
Can you ask them how many we have to eliminate in order to bring it down to our budget?
Yes.
That seems like a simple question to me, and if they say they can't, well, they can't. But
Well, and it would also, it's not just that, Sean's price would have to come down for watering if he's doing.
Right.
Right? If we only end up with half instead of
I
140,
agree
right?
with you explicitly.
Right.
Yeah,
We're not
you'd expect
arguing
it to
about that.
come
We
down.
need to find out.
But I'm just saying, the sole cost isn't borne just from getting less plants,
I understand that.
but the majority of it probably would be.
Still a lot of labor that goes into getting them out here, planting them. It's
Watering.
Even if we cut it in half, which theoretically we probably would have to do, it's still a lot of work. So who knows, how much does that actually, so I agree with Bill, we should direct those questions to the companies that provided these bids, but we can't, I don't think we can approve anything based on what we received tonight.
I'd agree. Do you want a motion to reject them all, to reissue, or is that premature? Would you
I think that
rather-
would be premature, because if you reject them, then it does have to go out to back out to bid.
I'm just asking,
So,
yep.
Okay.
I would, yeah, just the discussion, and then I'll
We're
do a little bit
directing
more
you to
work
make
and.
a couple of inquiries as to, and I guess it goes along with Sean, and asking him theoretically, if we eliminate half of them, what's his bid going to be?
Yeah.
And that will give us the information we need
Well, and did
in order to...
any of these people still want to do it for half the work, too?
I agree with you, we'll find that out really quickly.
Yeah.
That's 2 phone calls, I think.
Yep, not many, yeah. Okay.
So, but I'm sorry, can we, is there a way where we in next meeting don't have the same conversation? Like, do we, Zach's point, do we need a few of us to discuss this within the next 2 weeks so that in 4 weeks, we're coming back, we're saying oh, these answers, all these questions have been answered, here's the answer? Do we
We're all
wanna do it or
reachable
not?
by email by filling in the blanks and telling us what's going on.
Well, because to John's point, if we go that route, then the next meeting might might already be out for bid again. If we don't.
That would
get
be
the
helpful,
conclusion that
John,
we want.
actually.
What I'd like to see is we take 2 weeks starting right now, and I don't know who, I mean, we're going to need your help, obviously. I don't know if there's 2 or 3 other people that want to convene, look at all this, answer some of the questions we just asked of these bidders, and be able to say, yeah, you know what, I think maybe instead of 82, we should be doing 50. And here's why, here's the reason, here's the cost, the new cost for 50. And then when Bill's asking next month, how many can we do, we'll be able to answer that. And then that gives you 2 weeks to get revised bids from these people, which puts us at our next meeting. If I made sense, I might have just confused.
I thought the direction that Bill gave, asked the question to find out what can we buy for $35,000. And that's pretty much what I think we're all in favor of, supporting that budgeted amount. And
Right.
if she reports back next month that we can get 29, then we say, okay, we're ordering 29. And then the subcommittee can work to figure out where those 29 should go.
Well, first, part of it is asking Sean, okay, if we cut this in half, what's the watering cost? We've got that, let's say it's $10,000. I don't know, it doesn't matter what
Sure.
the number is. Then you can ask the same question, if we cut the foliage in half, what's the cost going to be?
Okay.
Or on it, and if they should be able to give us some variation on the number, because they're pricing this out at X number of dollars per pot, at least.
One part of the line item.
This is also based off of them assuming we were making a decision tonight and that this material is going to be available in another 30 days for them to even purchase.
I
That's what
think
I'm
that's
asking.
the risk.
Some of these people
We
are
take, though,
representing
we can't.
themselves as being, they're growing their own. I'm quite positive some of them actually do grow their own.
Well, that's what Ray did.
Right, and I think Guy.
He only grew part of them himself. Most of the pots he actually purchased from a grower and put them in the pots and then grew them the rest of the way in the greenhouses. So those are not from seed. Most of what we see were not from seed.
Okay, so are we clear on the direction?
I
then?
believe what the direction that I'm hearing is to find out what we can get for what we have budgeted, if we can get close to that, and what we can do with that. So that gives me a little bit of, feel like I have clear direction.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
All right, moving on in the agenda, under line item B, new business, DTE Energy Underground Commercial Development Loop System for the Southeast Quadrant.
Yes, so, Eric, you still have my letter? My draft letter. Thank you. Yes, today, I met with, actually Eric was out there, he owns Paramount Roofing. I met with one of the Renanskis, their office manager, Mary Raymond, came out into the quadrant, in the southeast quadrant. And Miriam Hernandez is our local DTE representative for the village. I'm not sure where else she also represents. We've been in talks, as you know, from my last director's report last month, and looking into, and it's been one of your guys' goals for some time, what does it look like to redo that quadrant in the back, get rid of the electrical lines? What would that take? What would that cost and whatnot? So one of the things that came about when Eric and I were talking a few months ago is he said that pole is leaning quite badly, the one that's directly behind his building. It's almost right up against the dry cleaners building. So to put it in Miriam's words today, that pole has been there since Jesus. That's how she explained it. And so that is going to get replaced within the next 4 to 6 weeks. So because it does have a split, it's been hit many times, they're going to put a metal barricade around just the pole itself. So that's an update from earlier, so that if it does get hit between now and if the whole project back there gets redone, if the property owners, the village agrees on it and whatnot. But all of those poles are, there's another one just, it's in the same, it's in, right where Mary's parking is, correct? So right where Mary Raymond's parking is, right behind her building, there's another pole. That one's also leaning pretty heavily. That one's been hit several times. There are 10 poles within that whole quadrant that are DTE specific. And she said she's pretty certain that they can remove, when the poles get removed, if they put it in, it's called a, it's called an underground commercial development loop system that they would put in. So the point is, next Thursday's meeting, a letter is going to go out tomorrow to every property owner in that quadrant, and then also the one just south of it, which I know is mainly Greg, the credit union, a couple other ones are there too, to let them know about this meeting, and it'll be DTE, it'll be myself representing the DDA, and some Village Romeo officials. Of course, you know, our president will be there. I think, I'm not sure if Catherine's going to be there on that one. DPW, of course, would be there to look at what would it take to put all of this electrical underground. The Comcast is going to be there, AT&T is going to be there. All the business owners are invited to join to figure out what would it take to make that happen. And this is a direction that I understood that you all wanted to go in taking this job just under a year ago now. And yeah, so that's set in motion. So there's no cost at all for this meeting with all these different entities to come together to look at. This could also, in the letter I'm putting there, that we look forward to further conversations as to how we can improve our parking and overhaul those spaces behind your quadrant. This could include the repaving, the dumpster corrals, signage, wayfinding, et cetera, in those spaces. If they just replace the poles, it's still a hindrance. It's like those supports in your basement. They're just sort of in the way, right? You wanted to put the couch there, but you can't because the pole's there.
The last meeting we had with DTE that I know of, that I was involved with, they wanted $487,000 to take the poles out on the, let's call it the bank parking lot all the way down. That was one block.
There's
And it was
definitely a
not their
cost
money, it was
associated.
480, pardon me?
Right, there's definitely a cost associated, because that was one of the first questions that I asked. And the
It's-
second question was, is there any grant money out there? What's out there to help fund it? Federal aid dollars? I don't know. Marion didn't know of any, but we can absolutely look at that. It would require easements being granted by every business owner, which is why they're obviously being invited, and costs associated with that.
The cost was so utterly horrifying, it just,
But it doesn't cost us anything to
I
get their
agree.
proposal.
I know, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I've been there, done that a long time ago, and maybe there's grant money and all types of things. Don't get all surprised that somebody says it's going to be $1 million, and you guys are going to pay it.
I'm sure it's going to be a very large number, but is it ultimately beneficial in the development and the beautification and the safety of our residents? Because if you have poles that are leaning, that in any given storm...
They have to replace those. Those are their property. They are the ones who are responsible for it. End of statement.
Unless it falls in a car in a municipal parking lot.
I'm not-
Right. I'm just saying.
It's they own that. They are responsible for keeping that stuff safe.
Correct,
They
to
are
a
not
certain
responsible
extent.
for,
In the event of a tragic accident, right,
okay,
we're all going to be named in the lawsuit.
not necessarily.
So, I mean, granted.
But let's move on.
It could be but it doesn't hurt to have the numbers. So
Right.
if it's something that could be done with grants and, shared project funding between the village and the DDA, it's something that we at least have the numbers for updated, and we can look at it as a board when the time comes, and it's good information to have, I guess.
I know in several of the quadrants, we couldn't identify locations for a dumpster corral because of the overhead wires. There wasn't enough clearance for the trucks to come in to dump in one common area. So even looking at that opportunity, we've been talking about dumpster corrals needed in the other 3 quadrants till we're blue in the face. It would just be nice, again, to be able to work to continually improve our village, or at least get the information.
I agree. Get the information. I'm just saying, in case you haven't heard this story before, by the way. DTE calmly will tell you how many hundreds of thousands of dollars you're going to have to pony up.
But they are going to replace the 2 poles that
They have
are
to.
in danger of falling.
Yeah, if they,
No. Yes.
once they've noted the fact they're dangerous, they are responsible for that, period.
Yep. And they've been very responsive, and I'm grateful that Elizabeth took the initiative to make that call and get that taken care of.
So we have many business owners, ones that's here, property owners, right? And some of you are property owners that are sitting right here at this table. And if you know, it's in your master plan, it's in the village's master plan to fix these areas. You have someone staffed who's finding the resources to come up with some answers for this. You have business owners, again, that are saying, why isn't this fixed? Who think some of that property is village property. That's not village property, it's private property. You know, these conversations, this collaboration, this is how it gets done. We don't know what happened. I can't speak to anything that was happened 10, 15, 20 years ago. The point is now, everyone
25.
wants that fixed.
Right.
Like,
Well, yeah,
let's
and
fix this,
And if we know
right?
it costs $1 million and somebody says, well, why hasn't this been fixed? Because it costs $1 million and we can't afford to do it. I mean, it's
Right.
that simple.
Yeah.
If the word's not fixed, it's changed.
But other communities have solved these problems, you know, retrofitted old parking lots with all kinds of people who own sections of them. There's a way to get this done. It just is going to take some creativity and I think.
Some hard work.
Yeah, and
But
some
we can
hard
do
work.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's your update. So the meeting, just so you know, it's on the 13th, it's Thursday the 13th at 2 PM. So we'll meet at the Renansky's office or building right there at, the address is 105 South Main. If it's nice out, most likely we'll obviously move outside and be looking at all that. So there's other mapping and whatnot that I received from DTE today, so if anybody wants any copies of that, just let me know.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, next, we need a vote to go into closed session.
I'll make a motion to exit out of regular session to convene closed session for the consideration of property acquisition.
Motion by Malzahn, do we have a second? I'll second.
Okay. Malzahn?
Yes?
Brandt?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes?
Hayes?
Yes.
Poznanski?
No.
Parker?
No.
Okay. All right.
All right. So we're going into closed session, guys, so I'm going to ask you guys to exit the room. Thanks for coming.
You are welcome to take that. That's just an extra copy if you want it. Okay. That's fine. So, yeah, thank you.
Eric.
Yeah, if you could. Can we make sure?
session.
Are they back on? Did we get the thumbs up?
Okay.
All right, we're good.
We're good.
Did you make the motion?
I'll make a motion to reconvene into regular session at 7:48.
I'll support.
All right, we have a motion by Malzahn, support by Brandt to come out of, or to resume the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Does that one have to be roll call?
Nope.
No.
No, okay, all right. Sorry. Okay.
Okay, I have a motion I'd like to make. And would you please read it?
Sure. It's the consensus of this board to direct the village president to pursue the purchase of the congregational church properties being offered for auction at October 13th, 2022, and that we respectfully request the DDA boundaries be expanded to include said aforementioned properties, and further that the DDA is willing to commit to help fund the purchase and maintenance of said properties in the amount of $50,000 per year for the next 10 years.
All right, so we have a motion by Parker. Do we have a second?
I'll support it.
Support by Brandt. Let's do a roll.
Okay, Malzahn,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes,
Parker.
Yes.
motion carries. All right, board member comments. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I just have one question, and I'm sorry to make this longer.
It's okay.
With the crosswalks and the sidewalks and that stuff, is our goal to replace that one as a permanent fix or to patchwork to like make it work? That's my only question.
The
At the
railing,
Masonic
the railing
one.
that's
And the-
there, you
And the
mean?
slope, because that slope
The
is.
slope can't be, they cannot be adjusted. If it meets code and they cannot.
Okay, so the
The
slope-
only way you could do it is if you literally took all that concrete out, got the masons to agree to have a third step put in. That could lower everything, but then we would jeopardize some of the funding because there's federal funding that doesn't allow you to modify historic structures.
Okay, I was just curious
Yeah.
on our goal on that end game on that, okay.
We're going to, the idea is to recommend for you all to approve or, to look at what are some different wayfinding things, bike racks, something to go down there. But for now, that is a very secure
Yeah,
railing.
we're just talking about that one spot, I
Yeah.
gotcha, okay.
Mhm. So something will go there because of how we're going to be closing that out. Yeah.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to remind everybody to take advantage of all the fun things happening in October, right? We've got the Screech Fest weekends, including the Chamber Art and Wine Walk coming up, so there's a lot happening in October. A lot of planning and effort has been gone into by our events coordinator committee and Elizabeth Miller, and I'm hoping everybody's going to come out and enjoy all the beautiful decorations in town and enjoy the fall festivities. So thank you for your hard work.
Great.
Make
Do I-
a motion to
Motion to adjourn? Did you make that
Yes.
motion? Motion by Parker, do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Rose, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion's, meeting's adjourned.